This is the Resilience Code, turning adversity into strength, one story at a time. I'm your host, Arbaina Kawilan, and if you ever have your own story to share, I have a link in my bio where you can drop that. I hope to hear from you soon. When we talk about roots, most people think of that as home, tradition, legacy. But mine were tangled in survival, silence, and systems that weren't made for softness. Still, these roots told the truth, and they taught me how to grow in my own direction. I was born out of wedlock. My mom and dad met while they were both working as domestic help in Saudi Arabia. All I know about my father is he's from Kerala, India, and my mom and him did not get to marry because of conflicting family traditions, religions. Back then, Indian men are expecting dowry during a marriage, and in Islam, my mom's religion, women are expecting dowry in exchange for their hand in a marriage. That resulted to my mom going back to the Philippines pregnant with me, not having a partner with her, and me not meeting my father for the rest of my life. When my mother came home, she wanted me gone, and I don't blame her. I used to blame her, but I don't blame her now that I'm understanding everything. She wanted me gone. My savior was my grandfather. After my mother gave birth to me, I was 2 weeks old, she had to leave again. Her reasoning behind that was to earn money for the family, like she was already doing. Her and her siblings are all abroad during these times because they're trying to support my grandmother and my grandfather after losing their land because of militant groups squatting their farmlands. I don't know if that's the only reason. I could also assume that she's probably running away from me, which is totally understandable. That being said, I grew up being fed by the aunties in the village, whoever is available to provide milk for me. And if that's not available, my grandmother had to improvise, mixing a little bit of condensed milk with water, which is really not sustainable for a child, but she gotta do what she gotta do, right? For baby food, she would have unripe banana mashed and some sugar, and that would be my baby food. We moved around a lot, but I do not remember that as much. I remember us being in Cotabato City, which is a little bit safer than where we were before. During those times, militant groups in the Philippines are just too extreme. People fighting with the government. In fact, some of my uncles are part of the militant groups, but we're not gonna get into that. But I'm just giving you an idea of how guns, violence, and war are all around me while I was growing up, and having that in your system as early as an infant, it doesn't really give you the nervous system coding, if you may, that you need as a child. I would also like to emphasize that during all these moving and conflicts and losing our farmlands, I grew up dirt poor, very very poor. And to top all of that, instead of my mother sending us money for me and my grandmother to have our needs met, my grandmother was illiterate, so she doesn't know how to deal with banking systems. And my mother would send money to some of my aunties and my cousins that has bank accounts back then, and they would lie about receiving the money, leaving me hungry for days. And these are the times too that we cannot really talk to my mother because long distance phone call is quite astronomical at that point, and we'd rather spend our money on things that are important back then, which is food. When I say we were poor, we are very, very poor that we have to worry about if there's rain coming. And if you are familiar about the Philippines, Philippines is just, we have plenty of islands, and that also results into plenty of rainstorms coming all throughout the year. I basically lived in a hut with my grandmother. Our roof is made out of we called it nipa hut. And I remember every time there's a rain, instead of enjoying the weather outside, there's always this fear. Because even in the middle of the night, I'll have to grab some basin to catch the drippings from the roof because there's plenty of holes and we cannot afford to fix it. If the wind and the rain picks up a lot, sometimes we'd have to evacuate and be in a shed or under a tree or something, and I'm not even exaggerating. Because our house would sway a lot, and obviously we do not want to be inside the house and have the house collapse with us in it. Coming from that childhood and having all these experiences, I learned early in my age that I have to earn love. That resulted in me being abused by family members because I thought when they were paying attention to me, I thought they were loving me. And to be honest, my abusers were the ones that gave me attention, more attention than I ever had received. That's not to say it was okay, but I think that's why I never spoke about it, because I also know that even if I did, nobody was paying attention to me. Everyone was so busy surviving that I did not matter as much. As a half Indian and half Filipino kid, back then, I was also bullied for being different. And what hurts extra is it's not the kids that just bullied me, it included the adults. I was so different. I had the only curly hair in the entire neighborhood. I was darker than everyone. I thought everyone hated me for that because that's at least how they manifested it in my real life. So I had to earn love. I had to perform. I had to be very, very, very good at school to just make everyone notice me, including my mother. I blamed myself a lot for not having both of my parents around. I really thought I was the problem because in my mind as a child, all I can think of is there must be something wrong with me, that both my parents are not around and I'm experiencing all of these hardships and they're not here to help me out like all the other kids' parents do. So I just basically tried to survive my childhood. And when I got into high school, my mother put me into a private school. Begrudgingly, by the way. She wanted to have a nice house to show off her hard work being a domestic helper, being an overseas Filipino worker. She wanted to show off her hard work in a fancy house. But my grandmother stopped her on doing that, and my grandmother told her that your child's education is gonna be so much more than anything else in the world. So she begrudgingly put me into a private school, which I'm very thankful of. That experience led into more bullying, but also it led into a lot of empowerment as well. I realized that I was in the wrong environment. I realized that I was actually smart enough to be in a place where I can be in a private school. And it's one of the best schools too in where I came from. During those times, I had crush on this guy who was the popular guy in school that I just left. And as soon as he paid attention to me, I grabbed that thing. I grabbed him, and eventually I became pregnant as a 16-year-old. Because of how much I wasn't given attention, because of how less attention I got from my family, as soon as somebody gave their attention to me, I took that and ran with it. I was so in love. Everyone did not want me there because I was the wonder child. I'm finally doing things. I'm in this nice school, and they were expecting me to just perform for them, which I did. I really performed for them. I was good at school. I was a problem child, but I was really good at school. But I also like the fact that there's this guy that is accepting me and loving me for who I am. He was actually the first person I told my sexual abuse experiences to, not even my family. I trusted him so much. We were kids. And yeah, we got pregnant really early. I was 16 and he was 19 when we got pregnant. And given our religion, we basically were forced to marry at a very, very young age. I didn't get to finish college when we got married. But after I gave birth, I pushed through and I said I can never imagine myself not having a degree. And thankfully I did. His family is one of the big families there is, and they were quite prominent. They used to be really, really well off. And when we were boyfriends and girlfriends, everyone was really accepting of me. And I really loved how they welcomed me, especially being someone that was separated from her family, growing up with just her grandmother and eventually her aunt. I craved for family. I craved for family dinners, which they have every single day. Dinners, lunches, they do that every single day. They live in a compound. So I thought I was finding this big happy family. But instead, I had experienced more abuse. Him physically hurting me at least twice during our entire marriage. His mother being so emotionally abusive towards me. And basically the entire family. I was this golden teenager when we were just dating because I was on the verge of moving to Spain to meet my mother, who was now moved to Spain to work there. She was working on getting me there as well. And I never really liked it because she is married to this man that I do not know. And given my experiences as a survivor of sexual abuse, if I cannot trust my family members, my cousin and my uncle, how would I trust a stranger that is living in the same house as me? So I was really fighting. And maybe that's the reason why I got pregnant. Because I was really smart about my reproductive health, even as a teenager. But then at some point, I just basically gave up and said, yep, let's go. Disclaimer, I do not regret having my kids. I do love my kids, even though I cannot talk to them right now. But looking back, I could have made good choices. I could have showed up better as a parent if I was more ready than a 16-year-old. After being married to the father of my children, he didn't really have the drive to provide. He was the mama's boy, and he just basically was like that, and I think still is. I never really knew him until we were married and living in the same house, and when I was expecting him to provide for the both of us. So at some point, I was forced to be in the United States. And I got here and I realized how much I did not like that relationship anymore. And I committed the unspoken. I had fallen for another guy, a savior, in my opinion back then. What I didn't realize is I was about to repeat the same cycle again, only more extreme. Only I will be more dependent. My second relationship turned into physical abuse, emotional abuse, and somewhat financial abuse. I stayed with my second husband, the American one, for more than 3 years. We were married about a year and a half when I left him, but we were dating a year and a half too before we got married. During both relationships, I did not really know who I was as a woman because I never had a role model of a good woman or even a woman. Everyone was surviving and there's no paternal figure around. And the only paternal figures that I knew of are the ones who abused me. The women in my family, their intuitions are so off. They were always in survival mode. And that's who I've become too. Until I had to experience both relationships, and especially the last one. After that had happened, I ended up being homeless in a foreign country. I ended up having no money and no job. And some people would call it the dark night of the soul. And it really was, at least for me. Because that's when I finally realized that I am old enough to make my own decisions. And I am old enough to actually carry myself out of whatever situation I was in. Even though it was so hard. Because it's almost like I was played with all the cards that are not supposed to be played with. I was homeless as an immigrant woman who does not have papers. I didn't have a job because I literally cannot. And I left with nothing, even a phone. When I walked away from my second husband, my abuser, the police had to give me a flip phone so I can contact my friends, which is almost impossible too because I didn't have any of their contact information because I also left my phone. But that experience led me to who I am today. I had to experience all of that. I had to experience all of the rotten roots so I can grow new ones for my own. No blueprint, because nobody really gave me a blueprint. I had to make up my own. And a lot of all the experiences that I had, I'm being generous. All of the experiences that I had, I blamed myself for it. Not having a father around, not having a mother around, me being abused, me being in poverty. I blamed myself for all of that. And hearing the talks about my mom wanting to get rid of me as a baby, I actually questioned why she didn't. I was like, if you're gonna put me through this, why didn't you just do that? It would be easier for everyone involved. But I'm glad that didn't happen, because I get to talk to you. I get to talk and share all of this in front of you. An ugly cry. But after all the blame, I did forgive myself for all of it. Because it wasn't my fault. Maybe it was my soul's fault, because you know what they say, our souls choose our experiences before we even get here. But before I was remembering that I chose this, I was blaming myself for all of that. Also, for the spiritual girlies that are listening, and if you can relate to the sexual abuse, I have found this profound. I saw somebody on the internet that's saying that even as a child, you have a siren energy. And I do believe that. I believe in siren energy, and a lot of people don't know what to do with that. So instead of protecting you, they're trying to harvest it. And those who are not mature enough, who are driven by lust, they would do that even to a child. And even now, I I attract people that don't know what to do with my energy. And when I didn't know what to do with it too, I let them. Because even I was like, why is everyone attracted towards me? And as a person who didn't have much attention when I was a kid, I took all of that as a form of love. I didn't realize that they were trying to get it from me. They were trying to harvest it from me. They didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it. All this time, I had this power within me that nobody knows how to deal with, including me. But now that I remember who I am, and now that I am growing my own roots, I am realizing that I am not here to be consumed. I am not here to perform. I am not here to prove to everyone that I am deserving of their love. What I'm here for is to be whole. What I'm here for is to actualize who I am as a person after remembering who my soul is. And I guess that's what really roots are for. Not just what you came from, but what you chose to grow into, even after all the rotten ones that came along. Before I let you go, I wanted to remind you that you are allowed to break the pattern. You are allowed to choose the kind of strength, a softer kind. And if today's resonated something or stirred something in you, please hold it. You don't have to explain it yet, just stay with it. That's more than enough. That's it for today's story, and if it stayed with you, sit with it. If it helped, pass it on. If you've got something of your own, the link is in my bio. You don't have to fix it, just name it. And always remember, resilience isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about choosing again and again not to be hardened, but to be changed.